Today we're in part 2 of our 3X track, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper on emotions. Tracy, today we're talking about bouncing back. Here's the idea. Life is full of tests and trials. Emotionally healthy people are ready for anything. They're able to bounce back.
The word we're really keen in on today is the word resilience. And the idea of bouncing back kind of helps define that. And even before we get to the specifics of resilience and what a resilient person looks like, we think it'll be helpful to talk you through a couple of other pieces that fit to the puzzle of what makes a resilient person. We're going to talk about this idea of the filters that we use in life and even the mindsets of how we attack our world.
So as you cover this topic with a group or mentor, I encourage you to be honest and answer this question. First, your filter. Are you a victim or a victor? When hard times come, a victim blames others, while a victor looks inward. A victim gets defensive, while a victor gets motivated.
I like to think about filters like making your cup of coffee in the morning, right? You put in that filter, you put in your coffee grounds, and then you pour in the water, and the water filters over the grounds and makes you your lovely cup of coffee. And really, that's how we work in life. We take experiences, people's words, things that happen, and we run it through a filter in our mind. And it kind of shapes the way we view ourselves and then the world around us. And so if you're a victim, that means that everything that happens to you, you're filtering through that victim mentality that's kind of a me-centered way of looking at things of, hey, I was wronged. Someone else did something. If I fail, it's not my fault. Somebody else did something that caused me to make a mistake. Whereas a victor is going to look at it and run through a filter of, okay, I messed up here or I made a mistake. What can I learn from that? What do I need to do to change that? Starting with myself rather than looking to blame someone else. So the filter that we use is a big deal in how we view ourselves and the world around us and how we interact with people and the challenges that come our way.
Now, the truth is, nobody is 100% victim, nobody is 100% victor. But if you scale it from victim to victor, where would you put yourself? And it might be helpful to grade yourself based on a concrete situation. Think of the last interpersonal trial that you faced. Maybe somebody challenged you at work or at home, or you got into an argument. How did you initially filter that situation? Give yourself a grade and be ready to talk about it. But here's the second thing we want to introduce to you. It's called a mindset. There are two types of mindset, fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset says you can only go so far before you hit your ceiling of achievement. A growth mindset, on the other hand, says that you can always push harder to expand your horizons.
So a classic example of this is think of the person who grew up in a family where money was always tight. It was a paycheck to paycheck kind of a thing, never could afford to own a home, and weren't able to go to college. That just was not an opportunity that they had. And then as a person growing up in that home, a fixed mindset would say, well, that's our lot in life. My parents weren't able to go to college. They never could buy a home. That's going to be true for me too. Contrast that then, though, if you have a growth mindset, that person could say, you know what, my parents had some different challenges, but I have some new opportunities. I don't have to limit myself to what my parents were able to accomplish. I can push forward and find new opportunities and new goals to change my future and that of my family.
And once again, nobody has a perfectly fixed mindset, and nobody is perfect with a growth mindset either. But rate yourself on that continuum, once again, between fixed and growth. Where would you mark yourself? And for this one, really think about it in terms of your future goals for your life. When you think about your future, do you approach it with a fixed mindset, or do you approach it with a growth mindset? With your career or your personal life, do you see limitations or do you see opportunities? And all of this will help you to get a handle on this term that we call resilience. Resilience is a telltale sign of emotional health. It's the ability to bounce back from stress, from setbacks, and even from suffering.
The truth is, we are all going to face stresses, setbacks. We're going to lose people. We're going to experience suffering in this life. So the question isn't when are those harder things going to come along? The question is, how are we going to respond to them? It's the same thing with our emotions that we talked about in week 1. This idea of resilience is how are you going to respond when those things happen in your life? So go back to think about those filters for a second and how different it can be to approach your life thinking, okay, when this happens to me, am I going to look at this as a victim, that this stuff is just happening to me? I have no control over this. Or am I going to look at this and say, you know what? That stinks what just happened, but I could be a victor in this situation and say, how am I going to learn from this and grow from this situation? And it works the same with your mindset. If you're going to approach those setbacks and those times of suffering and say, this is just my lot in life and I'm just stuck and I don't really have a hope for my future? Or am I going to look at it and say, you know what? Again, this is an opportunity to grow and learn and make my future better than my present is.
So if you want to bring out the good in your life, you have to learn to bounce back emotionally. Now use those questions below to talk about this with your group or mentor. And in the next video, we're going to start diving into what this means for your relationships.